business suits, people business casual, like normal downtown Detroit sunny summer day. And as I'm coming to one of the corners, I see a black male coming towards me. And I didn't even get a full look at him, but immediately there's something that happened within me. Some physiological change, and my heart started beating faster, and I started getting warmer. And as I turned the corner, I could tell he was behind me. And all these thoughts in my head were like, dude, it's okay. Dude, it's fine. It's 10 o'clock. And I'm like running down all the details of like, man, this is like, nothing's gonna happen. You're okay. You're okay. But I wasn't okay. Wasn't okay at all. Open up your eyes. It's all I need. Welcome to the Out of the Darkness Show, episode 2. Today we're getting into some of my own trauma, my PTSD, my fear of black males. I'm going to be hitting that stuff head on. This show is all about overcoming the darkness in your personal life. I've been in the dirt. I've been in some really, really dark places. There was times in my life where all I wanted to do was just end it all, make it all just stop, just not have to wake up another day. Now that I've gotten out of that, I want to tell everybody, and I believe that all of us, no matter where you are, can get to a better place, can get to a different place, and a place where so now for the first time in my life, I'm like, man, I'm excited about life. And I'm like, yes, I get another chance, another shot. I'm 40 years old, and for all this time, I feel like I've wasted so much time, and now I get a shot to actually live. Let's go. So, today, I'm very grateful for the fact that you're here tuning in. I think you're going to get something out of this. I've had a lot of positive feedbacks from the Facebook Live that I put out on this topic, and let's just jump into it. Thank you for being here. I'll be honest, the level of discomfort I feel this week is crazy compared to last week. And leading up to this, I'm like, oh boy, kind of stepped in it now. Sent out, and I messaged a whole bunch of people too. And at first, to be honest, I just messaged black people in my list who I knew would probably be interested in hearing about it. And then I was like, you know what? I think this is a conversation everybody needs to have. And I think it's a conversation that everybody. So I messaged everybody in my Facebook friends until they kind of shut it down. And man, I believe that the more that people become vulnerable, the more that people start to speak the hard things in their life and not just the filtered version of themselves. And I think when that starts happening, we can actually start making progress across the aisle. And so for me, as nervous as I get, as much as my heart was beating coming into this, and as I'm like, oh man, I'm like, look, let's go. Let's go. If you're not going to be honest, who's going to do it? If you're not going to put yourself out there, who's going to do it? If you're not going to be vulnerable, who's going to do it? Vulnerability begets vulnerability. Okay? Honesty begets honesty. If you can come in and start sharing the stuff that's hard, this is pain. It's embarrassing, and I'll get into that. I shared a post last year. I was downtown, and this is about 10 a.m. downtown Detroit. I'm at work. I step outside the building to take a call from my wife. And as we're talking, we're having a normal conversation. And as I'm coming up to one of the corners outside, and there's people all around me. People business suits, people business casual, normal downtown Detroit sunny summer day. And as I'm coming to one of the corners, I see a black male coming towards me. And I didn't even get a full look at him, but immediately there's something that happened within me. Some physiological change, and my heart started beating faster, and I started getting warmer. And as I turned the corner, I could tell he was behind me. And all these thoughts in my head were like, dude, it's okay. Dude, it's fine. It's 10 o'clock. And I'm running down all the details of man, this is nothing's going to happen. You're okay. You're okay. But I wasn't okay. Wasn't okay at all. And I walked that half a block and I turned right immediately and opened up the door to 7-Eleven, where there's a handful of customers in there getting their coffee and getting their donuts and everything else. And I stand there in front of the chip aisle and just wait. And I can barely even talk to my wife who's on the other end, and she doesn't know what's going on, and the people in the aisles don't know what's going on. I'm the only one. I'm the only one who knows what's happening. And I'm thinking about this guy who's just down in the middle of Detroit. And I'm judging myself like, dude, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? 7 years ago, and I'm going to use the language that was used at the time of the event. 7 years ago, I was coming from a job site, dropping off some tools at our building. And it's about dusk, August 19th. And I'm running the tools from the back of my truck to the door. Back of the truck to the door. And there's somebody else inside running them from the door to the back of the truck, running from the door to the inside of the building. And I see a couple young black guys coming around the corner. So they're down there. I'm at the back of the truck. Normal. When they get towards the front of my truck, one goes on one side, one goes on the other. At that point I knew, and I didn't know exactly, I didn't have enough time to think about why I knew, but I knew something was wrong. I knew something was about to happen. I don't carry a pistol. When they get to me, they're one on each side. They pull out the guns. Run your shit. Run your shit. And so I reach towards my wallet. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I thought you wanted my stuff. And he's like, don't do that. I'm like, okay. So then I started kind of instinctively backing up. He's like, stop. So I do want to say this. If you're going to rob somebody, I think you need to be clear in your instructions. Because to me, when you tell me, run your shit, like I'm thinking I'm the one doing the running. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so if you're going to do the running, just make that clear. That's all I'm saying about that. I stop backing up. The other guy goes in my pockets, takes my keys, takes my phone. And then they shoot twice. They hit the door once, hit me in my chest the other time, and then they run. And they run and they're shooting in the air like an old western, just bang, 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 bang. And that thing, like, I didn't even at the time when they came up, like, I didn't feel fear. It was just something that, it was just like, okay, they come up, they got guns, whatever. And it wasn't until later that, people used to ask me, like, man, I would see people years later, like, man, are you okay? Like, and they're talking about physically. I was okay physically. I was out of the hospital in a week. But it was the stuff like up here. And it was the stuff emotionally, like, that really messed me up. And it was the things that happened, the things that began to happen after that, that really made me realize how messed up I was. Like, I was in such a dark place. I got to a dark place, like, as far as depression goes, but, like, there was just some events that kind of, like, highlighted what was happening inside, because I didn't completely understand. I knew I was uncomfortable in certain situations. I knew I would freak out with little stuff. I knew going to get a pizza became a really difficult endeavor for me. But like I was downtown. My oldest son, since he was a kid, he loved Thomas the Train. We used to go downtown on the People Mover. We used to ride the People Mover around. It's just like this big, pointless, for those of you who don't know the People Mover in Detroit, it's like this is elevated train system. It's like Chicago has. They got the L. The only difference is in Detroit it just goes this big circle around downtown Detroit. We get out of Greektown. Some guys, 3 guys get on at the next stop. There's hardly anybody on the train. We're at the front. These guys get in on the back. One of them comes up towards the front. And then another 2 come up and join them towards the front. And now they're talking and they're loud and they're obnoxious and they're from the hood. And I'm starting to like have all these questions in my mind. I'm starting to like literally, I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm with my, like, 1-year-old, and I'm like, should I put him on my lap? Would they be less likely to attack me then? And thinking all these crazy thoughts, and they don't, like, there's no place to get off the People Mover in Detroit unless there's a Red Wings game, there's something going on at Cobo Hall, or you're back at Greektown, which is where we started. So this whole time, I just had to ride this, and there's all these thoughts, like it seemed like forever. There's all these thoughts going on, and they're having their conversation, and I swear at any moment, one of them is just going to fire on me, and just going to, like, clock me something. Plus, at that point, like, I had also been feeding my own psychosis by watching videos that were similar to what happened with me. And just like all these violent videos. So like everything that I'm taking on, like when I got shot, part of what that did is it removed the calluses that I had created with violence over the years. And so now I'm paying attention to everything. Like I'm watching everything. I'm thinking about these 300 girls in Nigeria that got kidnapped. I'm watching that way more closely than I would have otherwise. I'm looking at national, local, international, all the stuff. And so like I'm just losing it here. And by the time we got back to Greektown, and that was the other thing that was strange, they didn't get off at any of the stops either. By the time we got to Greektown, like I could barely walk. And my knees were shaky. Like this is stuff I don't even know about. Like I hear this, like people describe this in books, like my legs were like jello. And that's not even a real thing to me. And I could barely walk. And as we headed down the steps, as I took my kids in my hand, I was like, we're not getting fries tonight, guys. We're not stopping at Five Guys to get fries. We're not gonna get ice cream like we normally do at Cold Stone. And so they're complaining. And I call my wife when I get in the truck and I'm like, look, when I get home I need you to take the kids. And she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I just need you to take the kids. And she knows something's wrong. She knows something's really wrong. And because she can hear it in my voice. And she's like, what's wrong? And she's also lived through me getting jumped. She's also lived through me getting shot. And she just knows, like, she senses something's wrong. And at that point, I just start breaking down. I cried and I cried and I cried. Because nothing was wrong, but something was still really wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I knew, like, when I was a kid, I was dumb. And I didn't care if I was loud around other people or if I was in their space. And if, like, I was an obnoxious, dumb teenage kid who went and did dumb stuff with my friends. And they weren't even, like, that wasn't what they were doing. It wasn't that big a deal. But, like, in my head, and I was sharing this the next day at this Bible study. And on the way out of that, man, on the way out of the Bible study, as I was pulling, this was in Southfield, I was pulling onto the Lodge Freeway, and I was angry. I was angry at myself for stereotyping these kids. And I was angry at the situation because I'm like, man, why did this even happen? Why am I even in this position to where, like, this is my natural response, to where there's a physiological change, to where, like, I'll be in certain situations and it feels like somebody just poured a bucket of fear and I can feel it. Like, I can feel the warmth, like, going through all of my veins and everything. Why did this happen? Like, I hate it. And I started weeping, and then at the same time I started yelling. And, like, this rage, and I realized at that point, like, my whole life I've used anger to try to, like, put my other emotions in check. Put them where I didn't want to, like, I don't want to deal with you because you're uncomfortable. So, like, being vulnerable, like, feeling insecure, feeling afraid, all these kind of things, anger would just rise up and kind of be like a bouncer for my other emotions. Like, you sit down and shut up. And, man, like that began to, like, free up some stuff. And so now I'm at the place where it's like, I want to share out of the darkness. Like, I want to talk about the stuff that people don't want to talk about, because I think there's a lot of us that have these visceral responses, whether it's from trauma, whether it's from media, whether it's from a lot of things that need to be talked about. For me, part of my healing, I was in this group that talked about race stuff, and people shared some crazy stuff. I mean, there was one guy who shared about how he kind of ranked, like how he noticed his feelings, like how he felt towards homeless people, like as far as like how he graded them. Like white females he felt the most sorry for, white males next, then black females, then black males. And he shared that. Ethiopian dude was like, look, I watch videos of black people beating the hell out of white people. Like, that's where he was at. And for me, that was freeing. Because, like, I had gotten to the place, and what's crazy about me is like, I was at a place where, like, I had been around people. Like, the place that I live in Detroit, like, I had moved to a place to be closer to the drug dealers so I could build relationships with them. That's just kind of where I was at. So I didn't have any problem interacting with people up until the point where my trauma happened. And after that, like, things just changed. And so when he shared that, like, I was so far gone from that. I was so far in the dark where I had been consuming things that basically the opposite of him. I had been consuming things where the white dude was on top. Like, as much as I could get that. And I was watching black on black violence, like watching them beat the hell out of each other and just feeding this dark psychosis, like feeding the stuff that I wanted to feed, like the darkness that was in me. And so, like, as I began to look at that, and as I began to just, like, that was so freeing for me. And so for him to be able to share that, I feel like I am obligated to share, like, the stuff that's hard, because I know there's a lot of people out there sharing. And I'm at a place, I've had so many experiences. It's like a year to the day after I got shot. I pulled up beside, Detroit has these kind of almost like 3 lane, it's like a lane and a half, you kind of have a parking lane. I pulled up beside in the parking lane, and I guess they thought I was too close. So the guy was like, "Damn, player," and then they started following me, swerving back and forth, like a year to the day. Like, I go into Little Caesars just to pick up a pizza on the way to help my brother-in-law work on his house, and this dude is talking about, when he has that bitch on his hip, like his gun. He's like talking about how he probably would have murdered somebody the other day if, like, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I can't leave. I'm the only white guy in here. Like, I can't leave right now. So I just gotta listen to him talk about that bitch on his hip just for like 5 minutes while they get my hot and ready. And I'm like dying inside. Like, this is the stuff, like, I want to be honest so that, like, we can have real conversations. And I want to have real conversations about, like, with people offline, online. If people have questions, shoot the questions out, all that kind of stuff. Because I think there's a lot of us that when we see somebody, there is some kind of reaction. And it can be based on it can be based on real life, it can be based on what your friend went through, it can be based on just the programming media-wise. But until we stop waiting for you, until I stop waiting for you to say something so I can just jump on you, and say something so I can just add that to my list of, like, I knew you guys were like that. Like, none of this stuff is going to change. None of this is going to change. I think there is what I suffer from is post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I think, and that's based on trauma, I think that there is an American trauma that we don't talk about and that we don't deal with. And I think even globally, and I know I got people watching, some people from Jamaica, there's Jamaicans are all over the place. I see a Jamaican in Japan right now. But I think all over the place, as you listen, like, there is trauma that happens, and if we don't deal with it, like, South Africa got to a place where they're like, let's deal with it all. Let's lay it on the table. Let's do something. We want to keep going like nothing happened. Something happened. Something keeps happening. And if we keep smothering it up, if we keep trying to cover it up, it's going to keep happening, and there's going to be these same responses. And I'm going to be talking to you, Karen, but I'm really not responding to you. I'm responding to all this other garbage in my life. So we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it. I need to know. Like, look, dude, you need to know where this stuff comes from. You need to recognize the fact that, like, yep, you got shot. Yep, you got jumped by 6 dudes. That happened. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happened. One of the things, though, here's the main advantage that I have around everybody else. I started coming to Detroit with people, like, while I was in college. I started being around a lot of black people while I was in college. And so there were some relationships that started forming. When I got shot, the lobby was full of black people from the church that I went to, singing and praying and just, like, interceding for me, that I would live. Like the bullet that was in me, the doctor was like, it's like somebody took their hand and guided it exactly where it needed to go. So, because it ended up right between my spine and my aorta. So the relationships that I had, like the fact that like people, like the people checking on me, like all colors, but there were consistently black people that were there checking on me, and black people that were like, that I would just talk to. I would just have these conversations with, like in a small inner circle, but are able to like not judge me for it, but like, man, that's effed up. Like that is like really messed up. What you went through is really messed up, and be able to have real conversations. Like a lot of us don't have those real relationships, and like there's no way we're gonna make it. There's no way we're going to make it as a culture if all we have is what we see on YouTube, and if what we see on the news, and if what we see on Twitter, and every dumb thing that people post online. Like, social media right now is nuts to me. It's zero relationship. You sit in front of the same stupid screen that I'm sitting from and just fire away, fire away, fire away. I'm like, that's not going to get us anywhere. Do you want to move forward? Do I want to move forward? I got to face this stuff head on. And until I'm ready to do that, there is no forward progress. And until we are ready to do that as a country, there will not be any forward progress. Period. It's just not going to be. I'm going to continue to wait for you to mess up. And then I'm going to throw my bombs. And then I'm going to see somebody on my team do the exact same thing that you did. And I'm going to tell you all the reasons why it's okay. And I'm going to point back to, remember when you did that last year, though? It's foolishness. It's foolishness. So that's all I'm saying, man. I believe that there is a major need for vulnerability. And I think when we start being more vulnerable, I think when we start being more honest, that's when we have a chance. That's when we at least have a chance to make some progress. So I'm stepping out. The reason I'm stepping out, and I'm not saying I'm the first one. There's lots of people who share their stories, but I do want to step out in my small circle in whatever way I can and just meet the stuff head on and just be like, here's where I messed up. Here's what I'm working through. Like here's the things. Like this is the response I have. This is what I'm doing to try to work on it. Like I continue, like I feed my mind. I stop feeding my mind with the dark, dumb stuff. You can find anything you want to find on the internet to like support the biases, to support like the garbage, to support racism and hate and all this kind of stuff. You can find it. You can feed yourself with that all day. Like the American Indian parable, which I love, is like there's two wolves. Like, one wants some really negative, dark stuff. One wants some positive stuff. Which one's going to win, Grandpa? The one that you feed. If we feed ourselves with all this negative stuff, we're going to keep being and doing the same thing. If we want to get better, if we want to make America great again, sorry. Like, for real, and not like this, like, I'm not talking about policy here, I'm talking about people. If we want to have real relationships that actually get better and start to move us and treat each other as people, like, one, we got to be honest. We got to stop waiting for people to like make the first mistake and just like be like, look, dude, I'm messed up. I am messed up. I'm messed up. I got one of my I got a good friend that he leads with vulnerability every time. It's Black American. And it doesn't matter how messed up the situation is. Like, Dewan is like, yeah, I see me in that. Like, that reminds me of the time we talk about any kind of crazy thing that, like, somebody did. And he's like, yeah, I see myself in that. And what that does is it lets the air and the tension out of everybody in the room. Because everybody's kind of waiting and posturing. And when he says that, it's like, that allows him to say whatever's next. Like, but what are we going to do? Like, how do we treat this situation? First, how do I deal with myself? And then how do I deal with the next person? Because until I deal with myself and until I can recognize this stuff in myself, it's like the guy said 2,000 years ago, take the log out of your eye first. And then maybe you can help somebody else. So, scripture, that's how it plays out in life. The Messiah said it, and we still want to keep like waiting for you to mess up. So, one of the biggest contributors to my healing, I would say, is the relationships, is having those positive connections. Because here's the truth. the truth is, most of the negative stuff that goes on, when you look at like violence, for instance, most of that is only a certain portion of the population, of any population. Any negative things that are going on, like the hyper negative things, they're a certain portion of the population. And so I began to build like that, just keep building, keep reminding myself. Like I have to kind of keep reminding myself of the good stuff. So part of those was the whole, for me, just the relationships. I consistently was around people, Black Americans, that are doing amazing things. They're doing amazing, like things that I look up to, that I admire, that I aspire to be. And it's like reminding myself of these great things. I think it's easy, we focus on the negative so much, but that was part of it. It's like, okay, look into some of those relationships that I have and getting to the place where I'm like, okay, let me focus on this stuff. Let me, instead of like feeding myself with all the negative stuff, let me go to the place where I'm feeding myself like, one, the relationships I have, making sure I'm going after those. And two, like looking at some other things that are positive. Like, yes, I had these experiences, but the majority of my life, like I had been in Detroit, so I got jumped by 6 dudes like 10 years ago. I'd already been in Detroit 8 years. So you do the math, 8 times 365. It's a lot of days that I didn't get jumped. And then I've been there, another 3 years. So that's another 1,000 days and I get shot. So like, I've been in Detroit since 2002 and 18 years, 2 days out of those, like it's just perspective. But those days will speak louder than other stuff. And so it just takes so much effort on our part to like really push and really do the work. And yeah, there's some messed up stuff that happens, but like, shoot, am I not a messed up person? Have I not wronged people? Like to some degree? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all that. But perspective for me, especially when there's trauma, and I think all of us have some kind of trauma to some degree in this area especially, and there's reasons why we, like, some of us have been trained as we were, like, from the time we were kids, either directly or indirectly, to think a certain way about everybody else. And, that can be for a lot of reasons, until we get to the place, like, for me, it's like always having to fight. Always having to, like, go to the place where it's like, dude, you gotta fight. You gotta fight. Like, I knew this was not like the case. I knew the dude right there was just in downtown Detroit. The guy that I saw that like triggered me to where I'm like feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack, so I gotta duck in between the chip aisle at 7-Eleven. I knew that dude is just downtown doing what everybody else is doing downtown in Detroit. I knew that. But this, my heart, and like my heartbeat, my heart rate, like everything in my body, my physiological changes, that was saying something completely different. And so in order to combat that, I just need to keep putting truth in there. It's like we're all jacked up. All of us. There's nobody on this planet that's got it all together. There's nobody on this planet that won't say something stupid, think something stupid, etc. Like, we just act like it's crazy how we come at people now. Like, we have a cancel culture. That's crazy to me. Dude, there is not a person on this planet that would not be canceled under the rules in which we set. So it's like, dude, even if you say something off the wall to me, it's like, I have thoughts and I say things and I've said dumb things. I've done dumb things. Shoot, if you haven't, like, throw the first stone. You know what I'm saying? It's like, throw the first stone. Who has not said or done something dumb? Who has not been at a place where you thought something really ignorant? Throw the first stone. Go ahead. I'll wait. I will wait. So that's the thing. Like, I had to drown the stuff with and just kind of come back. And so but it's a work in progress. There's still, like, I was sitting out on the porch the other day having a conversation with somebody outside. This was 2 months ago. Might have been more than that. It was a little warmer. So it was pre-winter. Anyway, details. I like get a little OCD sometimes. Anyway, I see two guys come across the street, and I'm watching. And I see a guy, so one guy goes to the store, the other guy walks past the house. Then he walks past the house again. Then he walks past the house again. At that point, I'm like, look, I need to go inside. I'm dying right now. Like, and he's like, it's like you feel sick. Yeah, but not that way. I need to be inside. I need to lock the door. Like that stuff, it doesn't go away. So, there's also a balance of like, wisdom. I live in Detroit. There is a crime rate. There's a reason why Detroit is always, has been in the running for murder capital. They don't draw that stuff out of a hat. So it's like that balance, and me trying to not to be ignorant, trying not to be naive, and also, just keep going, just keep pushing, and recognizing like, look, there's a ton of people. Most people are not this thing that's like that you're responding to. Most people are doing something that's completely different. So that was the main thing that really helped me. What I would love, and you guys can do me a favor too. I would love to talk to a black male or female who's kind of been on the other side of that. And so like I've shared my stuff. I've shared about getting shot. I've shared about getting jumped. And what I would love, because I'm all about balance and I'm all about like vulnerability. Like, let's talk. Let's have a real conversation. This is my story. I want to hear your story. Like, this isn't like, because like there's a ton of crazy stuff that white people do too. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I don't want to get to the place where it's like, oh, here's my story. I've been vulnerable. I want to have a balanced conversation. So if you guys know somebody who fits that description, I would love to connect so we can continue this conversation, because it is. I think vulnerability around mental health. I think vulnerability around stereotypes. I think vulnerability around all this stuff is the way forward. And I would love to just see, I would love to see us be more like Dewan, whether instead of just throwing the stone right away, I put the brakes on. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've seen myself do that too. So yeah, that's it. So if you guys have somebody that you're connected to, I would love that. Man, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Man, I was so nervous coming up to do this show. I appreciate the love. OC actually sent me a message. It's like, it was crazy. 10 minutes before this, he was like, man, looking forward to this dude knock it out of the park. And I was like, man, I appreciate that. Because like I was at the point, like, I'm like, dude, what are you doing right now? And started to get nervous. And I fight that stuff. I fight it with like, look, it's game time. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this, you are supposed to do this. Like this will benefit. If this benefits one person, it's worth it. But I appreciate the love. I do. So, I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. The coronavirus has made me just kind of stop a little bit, and really appreciate people that have been supportive. And yeah, that's it. I really appreciate you tuning in. That stuff is dark, and a lot of it's uncomfortable to share. It really is, but I believe when we let stuff like that sit inside of us, not only does it rot us, it robs other people of the opportunity to grow and to be stretched and to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, do I see some of that in myself? So that's why I share. I would love to hear people's feedback, comments. Please, I want to connect with as many people as possible. If you know somebody who would be benefit by this, please share it with them, email, text, whatever the link. Also, comments, reviews, all of that stuff, that would help. If this helps you, I would really appreciate it if you did that. For now, peace and love. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. We can be better.